All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Glassman's world. This is Dan the Glassman, and I got something pretty interesting for you tonight. And we just had some interesting glitch as well, which is pretty strange. But I believe I got it fixed. We're going to check it right now and just see if we are on the right video. I went to go live, and we went live. It was an early morning bike ride, far northeast heights. That was not where I was. That's not what was going on. We had a small little conversation, but we're here now. So a crazy Thanksgiving Mandela Effect story. Welcome in, guys. So let's get this started. Hopefully I'll be able to read the comments here now. And let's make sure, yeah, everything's muted now. And okay, we are good. Back on track. That was weird. That was so strange. Oh my god. Oh, let's move this out of the way. We don't need that charger here. Just get things all melted over here. Alright, so we were just having conversation on the mushrooms and things like that. I'm going to get started making these here. So these are my simple $5 mushrooms. They retail for $5. They can easily be sold for $7 to $10, no problem. So if anyone ever wanted to purchase these and resell them, I sell them in bulk. And I got to make a whole bunch more of these. So got 50 of them out the door again, and got to make another 50. So just cranking these out right now. So as I'm working tonight, I want to share with you this crazy Thanksgiving Mandela Effect story. So I don't know if you guys know about the Mandela Effect. Tonight, this is going to be a new story, but I've spoken about the Mandela Effect before here. Basically what it is kind of like a glitch in the Matrix, a glitch in reality, to where some people have memories, mass society has memories in one way, and then it seems like what we remember has been altered and changed, and now that entire history is completely gone and no more. And then there are those who they only remember the new versions of things, and so they think that these other versions are just like a figment of our imaginations, or that we're just crazy, we're making things up, and that it can't be explained. So I don't know if you got to see the screenshot that I used of the stovetop stuffing. Do you guys remember stovetop? I used to eat stovetop as a child in the 80s. I grew up in the 80s. As a kid, I was in California. I remember living out there in California with my mom. We lived on a street called Vandergrift, and we had a home where I remember specifically growing up listening. We watched a lot of TV. My father was an electrician, and we pretty much had like all the different channels on the TV, and we had all the different cable channels and everything. And so we watched a lot of TV, and there were commercials that came on. And one of them was the stovetop stuffing commercial. And I remember specifically that stovetop stuffing commercial. It was like these kids were hanging out, right? And I remember they were starting to talk about dinner, right? And they were like, oh, what are you guys having for dinner? And like, oh, we're having like leftovers or whatever. What are you having? Oh, we're having this. Hey, what are you having? Oh, we're having stovetop stuffing. And they're like, what? Stofers? Stovetop stuffing. And then it had that guy come in with that deep voice, right? Stofers. stovetop stuffing. And then he'd call his mom, right? He'd call his mom and be like, hey, I'm going to stay over here for dinner tonight. They're having stovetop, right? Do you guys remember that in the 80s, that commercial? So my brother, him and I, we talk a lot about these kind of things. We share these things. I thought he would have seen this one by now. This one's actually an old one. I think I picked this one up like, I don't know, 2 to 3 years ago, maybe even longer. I don't even remember when the Mandela Effect really kicked in for me. I don't remember the first time I really remember it. I don't know if it was like after 2012 when then things like started to shift and change. And then after that, that's when I noticed things. But one of the very first ones that I remember myself was the Berenstain Bears. And the Berenstain Bears, I don't know if you guys remember, but they used to have the Scholastic book fairs. I believe they still have those book fairs for the kids in school. You can order the books and stuff, but I remember I'd love to get the Berenstain Bears books, right? And I'd always ask for my mom to order them, right? And I never knew how to pronounce it. I didn't know if it was Berenstein or Berenstein because of the EIN. And I didn't really understand how to pronounce it back in elementary school. I remember that the Berenstein, that word, it always gave me issues. And now it's Berenstain, the Berenstain Bears, STAIN, no more EIN. So I don't know if you guys remember that, but the Berenstain Bears, that was one of the first Mandela effects that came to my attention. And I believe that was sometime after 2012, maybe around 2014 or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it was somewhere around there when I started noticing the Berenstain Bears and all that stuff. And it was pretty interesting. But I don't know. Do you guys remember any of that? Let me make sure the comments are on here. And get the comments up. But that was one of the first ones I remember. And so me and my brother, we've been talking about these a lot. We share the different ones. Here goes one of the mushrooms right here. First one of the night. I'm just going to be making these as I'm sharing story right now. What's going on, J87 Waldo? Yours just says stovetop, no other names. It doesn't even have craft on the side. I believe they say that craft has always been the originator, that there's never been anyone else who ever owned it. But back in the 80s, I distinctly remember Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. What's up, Mr. Monkey? How you doing this evening? I don't know if you were one of our winners from the giveaway back in October. But I can check that and we can see. Because if so, I don't know what prize you chose. But yeah, I distinctly remember the Stouffer's stovetop tuffing. I remember the story of those kids and how they were sitting around and they were like talking about, oh, what are you having for dinner tonight? I was like, oh, we're just having leftovers. Like, what are you having? Like, oh, we're having this. And what are you having? Oh, we're having Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. It's like, what? Stouffer's? And then that deep voice comes in. Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. Right? And then he calls up his mom. He's like, hey, Mom, I'm staying over here. They're having Stouffer's. Right? That's what I remember as a kid. Back in the 80s, grew up, we had them big old televisions, big old console TVs that were like basically furniture, right? And we had color TV. My dad, he was an electrician, so we had a lot of the top of the line things when I was growing up. A lot of good audio and video. We had all the different cable boxes and everything. I remember even back in the days, there was like the laser disc players that came out, and they were like the size of a record, but they were laser discs. And then they went back and they're like, oh, hold on, let's roll out the VHS tapes some more. And then 10 years later, then the DVDs came out, CDs and DVDs. But yeah, so Stouffer's stovetop stuffing, that's one that I remember from a long time ago. And that's not even the crazy story that I got for you guys tonight. I got a crazy Thanksgiving Mandela Effect story. This is one that has not really been fully told yet. I believe that this may be like, this is going to be one for the books, that this could actually like draw in some views on this video because of what I'm about to share. This is going to get kind of crazy, guys. So Mandela Effect, this is something that I've been really paying attention to. I have a playlist on it. If you guys want to learn more on the Mandela Effect, just go to my playlist and there's all kinds of videos on it. Basically what it's about is Nelson Mandela, apparently back in like 89 or 90, I believe he was put in prison. He possibly passed away, and there were these big old riots that occurred. And then it was written in books. And then, fast forward, 2013, Nelson Mandela is getting released from prison. And in between that time, there was a teacher who brought up the fact that her students, they were the ones who printed up the story of talking about the riots and everything, and how Mandela had passed away, and there were these big old riots and stuff that happened around 89 or so, and that this was actually printed back around 1990. And so since then, there's been like some sort of like an alter of like a split timeline, some sort of an alter of memory, to where some people will remember one thing one way and others will remember one thing another way. And it's just a very interesting phenomenon that I can't explain what's going on. I don't know what's happening. I just know that we've been told to always keep truth very close to your heart, and to always to be able to discern truth from deception. And so I think it's kind of like a test to see what people can remember and what people will be persuaded into believing and things like that, or also just how they can remove certain things to where all it takes is like a generation or two to wipe the slate clean and to have something new taught or revealed or indoctrinated as such. But it doesn't make sense with certain things. So some of my first Mandela effects are the stovetop stuffing, that's one for sure. Also the one we were just talking about. What were we just talking about with the Berenstain Bears? And then another big one that I remember was growing up in the 80s. We always joked about this. This was something that, like, I always remember this. Like the Stoppers thing, that's something I distinctly remember growing up at my mother's home in California. I wasn't here. It was at my home on a street called Vandergrift and out in Pomona. And I remember distinctly listening to those commercials on TV. And that whole Stoppers, stovetop stuffing. And then he like called his mom and was like, "Hey mom, can I stay over at Jimmy's?" Or like whoever his name was, right? So another big one, huge for me, was the Star Wars one. And there could be several Star Wars, but the big one for me was when Darth Vader, the most infamous line I believe that there ever is, like almost in movie history, was when Darth Vader told Luke Skywalker of his true identity, right? One of the biggest scenes ever, revealing who Darth Vader is to Luke Skywalker, right? It says, "No, you killed my mother," or whatever. "You killed like my mother and my father." It's like, "No, Luke, I am your father." Right? He says, "No, Luke." And so when we were kids, that became a joke because of the way that he pronounced Luke. And for some reason, as kids, you know, little adolescents, we're just all dumb. You know, we make up weird things. So we were like, "Hey, Luke, up at the sky. Hey, Luke, at my new shoes. Hey, look at me when I'm speaking to you." Like, you know, like it was like always about, "Hey, Luke," in all directions before you cross the street. Like, whatever it was, you know, like, "Hey, Luke," right? And so that came off from, "No, Luke, I am your father." And now it's completely different. And now they say that he never said his name. All he said was, "No, I am your father." It's like, wait, what happened to Luke? He always said Luke. He said Luke. Luke up at the sky. He always said Luke. So as a child, that's another one distinctly for me. Pretty wild. So, and what's crazy is, like, I got this story for you guys that I'm about to unload right now. And it has to do with the Fruit Loops Mandela Effect. Fruit Loops, right? So Fruit Loops was what I remember. It had the two O's in fruit and then the two O's in loops. And those O's were created out of the shapes of the Fruit Loop cereal, right? So it had 4 cereals in the name, right? The fruit and the loops. And then at some point, I remember like in the 90s when I was in high school, I remember Trix got changed up and they went to like a fruit shape, and their flavoring kind of got different and changed. They went from the balls to the fruit shape. And at that same time, I remember Fruit Loops then started to spell their cereal with the word fruit, Fruit, instead of with the double O. And back then, I was just thinking, oh, they're just trying to compete with the new Trix cereal because Trix has got the fruit flavors and they want to be known as the Fruit Loops and not have Trix as the fruit shaped or whatever. So I just thought that it was a marketing thing, the promotional thing. And then I guess like what it was a Mandela effect that back then I didn't even realize it, like not until just a couple years ago. But in the 90s, I remember that switch and that change. And so recently, my wife She has a caregiver that comes in and helps out because she's got issues with her health, and sometimes she can't stand for too long, and she gets the dizzy spells, and her heart rate will go up, and she needs some help, and so she has a caregiver that comes in, and so the caregiver was here helping out with clearing out a lot of. We had a lot of old clothes that just kind of piled up in the bedroom, and I've been so busy with working and keeping orders going and doing all these things that I haven't really had time to help. And so I'm really grateful the caregiver came in and helped my wife out with going through all these clothes so we could just basically give them away, donate them. And she actually took a bunch of them. She took like 3 bags, right? And when she took the bags, my wife was like, "Oh yeah," and I even let my purple Fruit Loop shirt go. And I'm thinking, I don't know if that was ever your purple shirt, or if it was. I remember finding that and like, oh my gosh, you got the Fruit Loops logo on the T-shirt with the 4 O's with the cereals on it. So I've been keeping that T-shirt as a Mandela Effect residual um, evidence, right? Because a lot of this stuff, you go looking for it and you can't find that it ever existed before. You go looking for "No Luke, I am your father," you won't be able to find it. You go looking for Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing, you'll find out that Kraft always owned it, and Stouffer's just did lasagna and some other like different frozen foods and stuff, but they never did Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing. Stouffer's never had stuffing. That is just crazy to me. But then there's another company out there that looks like the lettering of Stouffer's that is a stuffing box. Almost looks like Marie Callender or something like that. I don't know what the brand name is. I've taken photos of it. It's kind of like a green label. And that almost looks like the way that Stouffer's was written. It's like, wait, is there a glitch in all 3 of these? Like, what's going on here? No one's really talked about that other one except me. But so that leads me to what happened with that shirt. The shirt was in the bag, and it went with the caregiver. And I was like, oh no, I lost one of my residual evidence. Like, that's Mandela Effect residual evidence. Like, people don't got that. You can't just find those things or whatever. They're hard to find, hard to come by, to post it up online and stuff. Like, like I've got factual evidence, but it's on a shirt. It's not on a box of cereal, but it shows what it used to look like. So, I asked her for it. I was like, hey, I saw her today. I was like, hey, I know, I was like, thank you so much for helping my wife with clearing that out. We've been meaning to do that for like ages and ages. So it's like, I am so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I was like, but there was one thing, there was a shirt in there, and I don't know if you already donated the whole bags or whatever, but if you still got them, it's like, oh yeah, I still got them there on my couch in my house. I was like, oh, okay. It was like, there's this one shirt, Fruit Loop shirt. It's like, oh yeah. That one's on the recliner right there, whatever. And I was like, oh, it was like, well, so I told her the importance of it, right? And then I started telling her about Mandela Effect. I was like, you know about Mandela Effect? She's like, nah. And then I was like, oh, I was like, well, I was like, you remember Monopoly? And she's like, yeah. I was like, can you describe to me what the Monopoly man looks like? And she was like, I don't know. He was kind of short, right? I was like, yeah, he was kind of short. And she's like, and he wore a suit. I was like, yeah. I was like, but do you remember like what he wore like on his head or around his face or anything like that? It's like, yeah. He had a monocle on. And I was like, thank you. He had a monocle, right? The Monopoly man had a monocle, but not anymore. And I don't know how they done changed these things, but I have a 1950s Monopoly board game, and somehow the Monopoly man does not have a monocle anymore. It used to. It's an original 1950s Monopoly game set, and I don't know how it doesn't anymore. So we were talking about that. I was like, yeah, I was like, so that doesn't exist anymore. She's like, what? Like, no, he's always had that. I was like, you remember that movie Shazam with Sinbad? Because I just figured, because she's black, and I was like, she probably knows who Sinbad is because he's a comedian and stuff, and she's about my age. She grew up in that kind of era. Like, that was a movie that I watched back in the day when I was growing up in California. And I don't know, it was just one of those kind of movies that I thought she probably watched it, right? And so I was like, you remember that movie, right? Sinbad? And I wasn't like trying to stereotype or not. My mom, she actually dated a lot of black guys. So when I grew up, I used to be around a lot of black folk, and we used to watch those kind of movies. I don't know if everyone watched that movie or not, but it seemed like it was one of those movies that became like kind of a cult classic, or I don't know, one of those cheesy movies that just everyone seemed to watch when they were growing up. And now, even Sinbad says that he never made that movie. That movie doesn't exist. He was never a genie in a movie called Shazam. And then they recreated some new movie called Shazam with some superhero or whatever. And it's one of the most cheesiest movies there is, right? And they replaced it. And some reason, the genie movie Shazam doesn't exist. Isn't supposed to. Supposed to have been deleted or erased from our history, right? And so what's crazy is I'm like, you remember that movie, right? Shazam with Sinbad? And she was like, oh yeah, I just watched that 3 days ago. And I'm like, wait, what? There is no way. She's like, yeah, I just watched it the other day. That's one of those movies, like, I flipped it on real quick. She was like, it was one of those movies, like, when I grew up as a kid, I loved that movie. And she was talking about how last week she had some dental issues, and so she was at home chilling, and she had some pain in her mouth because they had done some work on her gums and stuff. And so she just was like flipping through, and she just wanted to put something on to just chill out, watch while she was relieving the pain, just like trying to keep her mind off the pain, right? So she said that she threw on Shazam with Sinbad 3 days ago. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. It doesn't exist anymore. I know it did exist. I watched it when I was a kid. I vaguely, faintly remember it, but I remember watching it when I was a kid. And so many others remember it. And she's like, no, I just watched it. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. It's like the movie with him being the genie when he came out the boombox. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh my gosh. It just like clicked in my head. I was like, you're right. He did not come out of no genie lamp. He came out of the boombox. That's right. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, wait. So how did it all start? How did he find the boombox? Like, what happened? And she was like, oh, there was some kids. They were chasing him in the beginning of the movie. They were chasing him, and they chased him into like some kind of a warehouse, and he was getting away from them. And there just so happened to be a boombox there that he was just running, and he tripped over. And when he tripped over, that's when Sinbad popped out. And the kid didn't believe him, and he was trying to tell him that he was a genie. And she was saying, like, yeah, like, the kid didn't believe him, and Sinbad was like, then started following him home, try to convince the kid that he was a genie and everything. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, I remember these details now, like, now that you're telling me this, like, oh my gosh, you watched this 3 days ago. How did you watch this 3 days ago? Like, it doesn't exist. And she's like, I don't know. I watched it on, like, Paramount or on Disney or on something like that. She's like, I don't know, let me check my watch list. And she starts checking her watch list. and she's like, can't find anything in her list, and she's like, I don't know, hold on a second, and she's like looking through all these different things, and she's like, wait, what? Like, no, I swear, I just watched it the other day. And so throughout the whole time, she's like looking through her phone to see if she can find it, and I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I brought you into a rabbit hole. I'm sorry. Welcome to the Mandela Effect. I'm sorry, but you're probably not going to be able to find this evidence. I believe you, like I told her, I believe that you've seen it 3 days ago. You're telling me the most details that anyone has even said online at this point. No one has ever been able to really recall what's going on in this movie. She just watched it 3 days ago, and she's telling me like details like that, and how then he's like chasing him around and trying to convince the kid that he's a genie, and the kid don't even have anything to do with it, don't want to believe him or nothing like that. And it took him a while to finally convince him, I guess. So then I was like asking her like, okay, well, what else happened? And she was like, I don't know, there was a part where he was trying to get signed, or he went in to go get signed, and then the producer or something found out he was a genie, and then found out that he came from the boombox, and he wanted to steal the boombox from him. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, hold on, back up. You're saying Sinbad was gonna get signed? And she's like, yeah, like he went to some club, and he started to perform some rap or whatever, and she started dancing, and she was like, okay, and she's all getting the groove, and then she's like, but that rap, like, that sucked, but he tried. He is like, all right, but the groove was good. And I was just laughing like, oh man, because I can just picture it back in the 80s, how cheesy it was, right? And so then she said that he got picked up. Like, someone spotted him in the club, liked his performance, some producer, something like that, and wanted to sign him. So then he was going to go and get signed or whatever, and then that's when the other individual found out that he was a genie, and that's why he's got the special skills, his rap skills or whatever. And so then he tried to steal the boombox, and I guess he actually got it. And then Sinbad and the kid, they had to get it back, and that was like the whole movie and everything like that. And also she talked about like when he was up there on the stage performing, that there was all these like gold like stars and sparks and glitter like popping out of the boombox and going flying out to everyone or something like that. And I'm like, oh my god, like, you've told the most detail that anyone's ever told of this movie. Like, all that anyone's ever told was that he was a genie and he wore this and that, and that's it. And then they only recall the one scene that's been on online that can be found, where it's the kid with some little girl with his friend and with Sinbad, and I think they're in a basement there, and they're surrounded by all these other things. But then Sinbad and all of them, they said that they remade that it was a spoof on the Mandela Effect, and they hid all these different Mandela effects within that basement and all this stuff. So there's like board games and all these different different clues and different things that are in there that are showing the old memories of what it once was. And they're saying that it was just a spoof on the Mandela Effect, and that they made that, but that the movie, he never made the movie, and yeah. To this day, he still claims he never made that movie. I don't know how. She watched this movie 3 days ago, and she gave me the most detail that I've ever heard before from this story. It's crazy. I cannot believe it. So she went home. She's still probably looking through her playlist right now. She is still probably checking through. Hey, what's going on, Joshua? I know the Bible changed too. It was the Lion and the Lamb. On the Peace and Justice Center, where I go every Saturday, for the free food line at 9 a.m. If anyone's in Albuquerque and they ever need free food or any, they love it if you come down because they can get more food if they have more people to serve. So, the more the merrier. They don't ask for ID, no paperwork. You just show up. You just get in line and you get free food. They just tell you one item from each table. And then once you get through one time, then at that point, it's pretty much take what you can, take what you would like at that point. So the Peace and Justice Center here, the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice, located at Silver and Harvard, they used to have a mural painted above their door, which was the lion laying with the lamb. And yeah, that's been changed too. I am melting some mushroom pendants right now. I'm just busting out a bunch. I'm selling 50 at a time in bulk. And I just got another order today, so I got to replace those 50 with another 50 right here. So, and these ones are made with the dark multi or with the carnival color. So they're going to have a really nice multitude of color within just using one color, but it's going to have a multitude of color. And my one color mushrooms, I retail for $5. They can easily be sold anywhere from like $7 to $10. So anyone who would even want to like retail and resell these is more than welcome to. You just purchase in bulk. I sell them for 50 for $100 without the cord, or 150 with the cord. So basically, they're $2 a piece or $3 a piece with the cord. And they're excellent stocking stuffers for the holidays. Excellent gifts for any occasion throughout the year. Birthdays, graduation ceremonies, any sort of just congratulations or an I love you or whatever. And hey, happy Thanksgiving, duh. I see a lot of people are here. Illuminate, you're back. So that's the deal. We can meet up for sure if you're a local Albuquerque. I don't know exactly how. If I know you, then we need to link up. And if I don't know you, let's figure out how to link up somehow. So yeah, we're just talking about the Mandela Effect, and I just think it's crazy that our friend, my wife's caregiver, completely somehow saw the movie Shazam just recently, and that's crazy. Because there's, like, it's undeniable, like, how she described it and everything. I'm just like, whoa, you're telling me in detail. Like, I wanted to have her just go on camera and have her just share. And I was like, you know what? Like, I was already planning on coming on live to YouTube for Thanksgiving just for a cool little thing and talk about the stovetop stuffing and all the other Mandela effects that I can recall. And there's so many more, guys, like the Looney Tunes ones and the Lucy, I Love Lucy, where he used to say, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. And now it's like they say, he's never said that, ever. It's like, no, he did. He did. I know he did. Sex in the City, not Sex and the City. There's so many different ones. It is so crazy how many there are. I believe Tom Hanks has got a few, right? Life is like a box of chocolates. Life was like a box of chocolates. Is life is like a box or life was? What's crazy is on the movie, on the back side of it, they talk about, it says that it's printed as as one way, but then when you listen to it on the audio as you're watching the movie, it's the other way. And it's like, wait, you have it printed one way, but on the movie it's another way. Like, oh, okay, that's crazy. And the wolf will lay with the lamb, said no Bible ever, right? But they want you to believe that the wolf, right? The wolf in sheep's clothing, chilling. Where'd the lamb, where'd the lion go? They don't want any lions. Lions, not sheep. Lions, not wolves. So yeah, what happened to the lions? Lion of Judah shall replace everything. Yeah, yeah. The Lion of Judah shall replace everything. Yeah, yeah. The Lion of Judah shall replace everything. Yeah, yeah. Give us the victory again and again. What? They changed the Prince song too? That's one that I didn't know about. Oh my god. There's so many, so I'm glad that you guys are aware of the Mandela Effect. But I just wanted to share that crazy story about my wife's caregiver coming in today. This is a story that it's fresh. Today. She just told me she watched it 3 days ago. And I'm going to just believe her that she saw it. And I told her, if you find it in your playlist, if for some reason it is still there in your history on your computer when you get home, please take a screenshot, take a photo, document it in some way with a video, any which way you possibly can. Please send it to me, share it with me, however. I really wish that she would have gone on camera and just told the story. And she could have just, like, I would like for her to just tell the whole movie from beginning to end, because it's fresh in her mind. If she just watched it 3 days ago, she knows a lot of them details. And I know that, you know, she had her issues going on because she had just gone to the dentist, so maybe she wasn't fully paying attention or whatever. But she said, oh, I love this movie growing up. Like, I love this movie. As soon as I saw it, I was like, what? You got this movie on? And she said, click, I'm going to watch this. It was like that. She just threw it on and just, you know, just trying to get her mind off the pain. Not knowing anything ever about the Mandela Effect. So maybe those who don't know anything about the Mandela Effect can still see it, but once you learn about it, then it's like you get shut down from all of what there once was. Like, would that be crazy? What if, like, I just shut her off and now she can no longer see anything that she once saw? Maybe we need to find someone who doesn't know anything about the Mandela Effect, and we just have conversations with them without letting them know that the Mandela Effect exists. And then we can, like, have them just share story, right? You just talk to them like, oh, just normal about things. And just see how they react with things. You could be like, oh yeah, next year for Halloween I was thinking about dressing up as the Monopoly Man. And I was watching that movie with Jim Carrey, and I remember that guy had that costume. I'm gonna try to find something like that one. You ever seen anything like that? And like, oh no. Like, but you definitely need to have that monocle because that's important, right? And just let them go. Like, just let them go along with it. Don't even like get shocked about whatever they say. But then you need to record it somehow. It's like, how are you going to do that and then document it too? That's the thing, is to document it. One of the weirdest stories that I heard about the Mandela Effect was this husband and wife was together, right, for a while, and her husband liked ketchup on his sandwiches, and she always thought it was a weird thing. It's like, what? Ketchup? And like, he always had to have ketchup to where like he had 2 bottles of ketchup, you know? Like he had a backup on the bottom shelf just in case he ran out. And I don't know if it was like ham or bologna or what kind of sandwich it was, but he liked ketchup on his sandwich. And she just always thought it was weird, but you know, that's her husband and she loves him and she's gonna make him a ketchup sandwich, right? And then all of a sudden one day she brought him a sandwich with ketchup on it, and he was like, honey, what is this? And she's all, it's a sandwich. And he's like, it's got ketchup on it. And she's like, yeah, you love ketchup on your sandwiches. And he's like, no, I don't. Like, that's gross. Like, wait, what? So I've always made you sandwiches with ketchup on it. What do you mean it's gross? What are you talking about? And he's like, I've never had ketchup on my sandwich before in my life. This is the weirdest thing, babe. Like, please take it back. Are you messing with me? Like, what? And she's just thinking, like, what? Are you messing with me? Like, what is going on here? And I think sometime around 2012, some things got shifted to where even people got changed up like that. And then relationships like went null and void. Just completely like, they were going good, and all of a sudden done. Around that time, I wonder how many relationships just went like a complete crash course around that time. But yeah, so I thought that was one of the weirdest Mandela Effect stories. I've got a personal, really, really strange one from when I was a child. And it's been verified by my brother. He even says that he remembers this memory. He was there with me. So, maybe we're in purgatory now. I don't know where we're at, but they say that our whole entire planet shift from where we were in the in the Milky Way to where we are now, or in the galaxy, and we're completely in a whole different position than where we once were. You know, the land down under is no longer down under. Now New Zealand is down under. Now New Zealand is the land down under. The land down under. Land down under, the land down under. So, one of the most trippiest personal Mandela effects that I have, that's also probably one of the most trippiest ones to share that no one's really heard. I've shared it out there. I don't have too many viewers. I'm building it up here slowly. I thank you all for being here and listening and just sharing time with me here. And I do hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving tomorrow. It's going to be pretty crazy. We're about to bake some pies. It's going to be all late baking right now. So, one of the craziest Mandela effects. When I was a child, I grew up in California. Like I said, you know, there's a house in Vandergrift Lane in Pomona. And my mom, after my parents were divorced, you know, my mom was trying to make ends meet, doing work, and had to get babysitters and stuff at the time. And I remember she had a friend named Cindy, or Candy, or something like that. Cindy or Candy. She was a black woman who was my mom's friend, and anytime we'd go visit her, I remember she'd be all, hey honey, come give me some sugar. And then she'd always want us to give her a little kiss on the cheek, and and say hello. And my mom would always drop us off at her place. It was a little apartment, I believe, that she had. Yeah, it definitely was an apartment because she lived like on the back end. There were several other apartments that we had to walk past before we got to hers. And so our mom dropped us off one time, right? And I remember our babysitter, she would always have the TV on, you know, this is in the 80s. And also back in the 80s, there wasn't too much of like the censorship and really like uh, being too cautious or careful of what we were all watching, you know, like, you know, sometimes the Skinamax would come on or something like that, and maybe they'd be all, hey, close your eyes at this part or whatever, or something like that, or go to your room, but then you'd like be coming back out and peeking or whatever, you know. And so she had on these movies, and I remember one of the movies was an Alfred Hitchcock movie that had all the birds. It was called The Birds, right? And you know, it was around the time when Psycho came out. It was back in the 80s. And I remember the movie The Birds was on and was just finishing when we had got there, right? And I remember that was kind of a scary movie. And me and my brother were there kind of like trying to play, but then we're watching the movie that's on because it's a complete distraction to us. And all we want to see is what is going on. Why are these birds flying all over and breaking into the phone booth and going into the windows and into the cars and all this stuff, right? And it was scary. So I'm guessing, okay, this is when I was a child. Had to have been after I was 5 years old because that was when my parents got divorced, right? And my brother, you know, he was old enough to be walking. He wasn't in diapers crawling around. So he had to have been like 2 or 3. We're 4 years apart. So I'm thinking, okay, I had to have been 7 or 8 years old, I'm guessing. 7 or 8 years old. I was born in 76. 7 to 8 years old, if you do the math, will put me at about what, 83, 84, right? Something around there. So let's say between somewhere around 82 to 84, had a babysitter living with my mom in California, watching the birds come on. And then after that show, then this other movie comes on. And it was one of the most scariest movies ever that tripped me out since I was a child. I will always remember it to this day. It's still a movie that I really don't like to watch. Don't really want to watch again. It trips me out. Don't like it. Ever since I was a kid. And I distinctly remember this one scene where there was it was like foggy street, and the camera was panning real low to the street and watching the fog roll through. And then there was this balloon floating. It was a red balloon, and then the camera's panning, and then next thing you see is this creepy ass freaking clown that's peeking out of the gutter. And the movie that I watched was Stephen King's It. So apparently this movie that I watched, the book was a bestseller, I believe, in like 85 or 86. Now, if I was 7 or 8 years old, and then this had to have been, like we said, 80, 83, 84. A year or two before the movie was a bestseller. Or before the book, I'm sorry, was a bestseller. The movie wasn't made and didn't come out until the 90s when I was actually in high school. And when I was in high school, I remember the trailer, the movie trailer came out, you know, and it was showing the movie and everything, and I was like, oh man, this movie again. Like, I remember when I was a kid, this movie creeped me out. And my friends were like, what do you mean this movie freaked you out when you were a kid? This movie is just barely coming out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I watched this when I was a kid with my brother. My brother was young. I saw it. We've seen this movie. I know I've seen this movie. It tripped me out. I remember watching it through my fingers. Like, you put your fingers like this and then you're like barely peeking through to see what's going on. Both hands over the eyes, but peeking through still and catching that glimpse. I remember it was so creepy in it. And I will always remember that scene with the mist or the fog rolling through on the street and that camera panning over with the balloon floating, and then there he is looking out the freaking gutter right there. It's one of the scariest things that I remember. Yeah, he also wrote Pet Sematary too. Yeah, which is also another creepy one. And so, that movie apparently didn't come out until the 90s, and I don't know how I seen it. There are some people who claim that they also seen it back when I seen it. Some claim that there was a TV series that was created, but I'm like, wait, did they create the TV series before the book was created? Or how did that all work? Because that's weird. So I don't know. That's my own personal one. I remember telling my brother, I don't know, probably in the last 5 to 10 years about this and asking him if he remembers, and he confirmed that he remembers. He remembers being there. He remembers watching that movie too. He didn't realize that it was a Mandela Effect or even when it had come out or anything. And I put the dates together for him, and he then started questioning how we got to see that movie before it came out. So yeah, that was a trip watching that movie. I watched Cujo too. That one I watched on the Laserdisc, on a big old record album sized Laserdisc, on this big old Laserdisc player. The drawer would come out, and then you put the little disc in there and it'd be gold, a gold Laserdisc. It looked all fancy. I remember our neighbor across the street. I think he had a little bit more money than us, and he had a little bit more of the fancier equipment. So my dad would always go over there, and they would always like have some of the, the best stereos and the best TVs and stuff. But our neighbor, he was a little bit more top of the line than we were. So we'd go over there and watch movies and check out things and stuff. Yeah, Cujo was scary too. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of censorship and don't watch this and don't watch that when you were kids back in the 80s. So, but I can't really explain how I saw it before it came out in the 90s, unless there was a TV series that came out somehow before the book was a bestseller. But that doesn't make any sense on how that would have worked out. And why isn't there more individuals who recall that TV series? You would think that would be like a cult classic kind of thing with Stephen King. So yeah, those are a few of the Mandela Effect stories that I wanted to share with you tonight. And for Thanksgiving, we're going to be coming up to December very soon here, where there's a lady, I forget her name, but she does the 12 Days of Mary Squatchmas, where they talk about Bigfoot and Sasquatch, and she shares stories, and I'll probably share a story again about Bigfoot here soon, during that whole time of the Mary Squatchmas and things. And we'll probably come back and talk about Mandela Effect again, because there's so many that are out there. So many new ones. It's so hard to keep up with, and to even try to recall which ones are which and this and that. You guys came out with some here and reminded me of a few, but there's so many out there. And if you don't know what the Mandela Effect is, like I said, check out the playlist that I have on Mandela Effect. There might even be a couple But I'm pretty sure that one of them is just a bunch of videos that just talk about the differences in what we remember compared to what others remember, and the glitches in the matrix, and how I don't know, I can't explain how, if I had a 1950s Monopoly set, how did the monocle disappear from him if that never left my sight and was always here in my possession? How is that now changed and moved? The box couldn't have been changed and altered. It's still the old box. Where did the monocle go? I can't explain that. Where did "No, Luke, I am your father" go? How did they get rid of that? There's so many different things. The Berenstain. There's a video of this guy claiming that he has a book, and that when he was looking at it in the room, he could have sworn that it said Berenstain with the E-I-N, but then when he brought it out to the living room to read it to his nephew, he said it changed on him. And it's like, wait, what do you mean? So he did a video on it, and he's literally walking through the doorway of his living room to his bedroom, and the book is literally changing right before your eyes from E-I-N to A-I-N. That video is a trip. If I can remember to link it on this video, I will. But yeah, that video is a trip. Like, I don't know. I mean, there could be, also, we're living in the world of AI, and a lot of this stuff could just be AI messing with us as well. But how did they change my Monopoly board game that's always been in my possession here? I can understand them changing things that are online and digital copies of stuff and digital imagery and things like that. But when it's right here, right in front of me, or the fact that I watched that movie before it even came out and I can't explain it, then I don't know how to explain any of this. And I just got to understand and realize that this Mandela effect is real. And it's something that I think we should pay attention to, but not get lost in. You know, like, go down the wormhole, but make sure you know how to get back out. Don't get sucked in and stuck down there. It might lead to darkness. You know, just understand things are occurring, and always remember what you remember, and know to keep all your truths, right? Keep your truths to be self-evident. Alright. I'm going to let you guys go, though. I only got one more of these for another 10 there. Only got to make another 20 more? And then that 50 is the replace. So I've already got like another 15 or 20 made earlier, so only a few more to make here, guys, and I'll have it replaced. I'll have another 50 ready for tomorrow. So I know someone was on here earlier saying that they wanted to meet up with me. If you definitely want to meet up, like I said, we got to figure out how to link up and everything here. I'll have these 50 ready to go tomorrow morning. Well, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow. I don't know how we're going to try to meet up for Thanksgiving. That's funny. Can't meet up on Thanksgiving. I'm going to be busy. We're going to be baking things and getting ready, getting the family ready, getting the kids ready, go see the family. Maybe later on, after everything winds down, we can meet up. But probably after everything winds down, I'm going to come home and eat more pumpkin pie with some whipped cream, and maybe even make some sweet potato pie. I might do a Cooking with the Glass Man video coming up here soon. Maybe if I make some sweet potato pie or some pies here or something. I don't know. We're actually thinking about doing our Thanksgiving on Friday or Saturday, since we're going to my aunt's tomorrow. You know, we're not going to try to cook everything and then go there and then come back over here. Like, there's no point. So we're just going to save our turkey for a day or two after that, and then we're gonna cook here. So we may do a late Thanksgiving dinner, and I may do cooking with the glass man. We might make some tamales. Might show you how to make some red chile, because here in New Mexico we like to put red chile on our turkey and our stuffing with the mashed potatoes instead of the gravy. Some people add gravy too with their red chile. That's a little too much there for me, but some people like it, some people don't. I don't know. What do you guys like on your Thanksgiving meals? You bust out the rolls, just make a big old Thanksgiving sandwich and put everything on there, including the cranberry. I think it can hold off on the cranberry and just put the red chile right on top with turkey, some mashed potatoes, some stuffing, and then the red chili on top, and maybe even some green bean casserole right on there. Bam. You know, last year I think I made the ultimate Thanksgiving sandwich. I believe I did. It might have been the first mukbang. No, it wasn't a sandwich. It was a Thanksgiving taco. I might have even put the pumpkin pie in there too with everything. Yeah, so you have a Bible that you've held on to, right? Hey, what's going on, mistreated? This is not another clickbait. We are talking about, or we were talking about Mandela Effect. I'm already done telling the crazy story where my wife's caregiver watched the Shazam movie with Sinbad only 3 days ago. Yeah, this isn't clickbait. I blow glass. I'm the glass man, and I just tell stories while I'm blowing glass. So it gives you a little something to watch while I'm telling a story here. But thank you for tuning in and watching Mistreated. Hello from Alabama. So, yeah, I think it's crazy that you owned a Bible 25 years, and now it says the wolf will lay down with the lamb instead of the lion. They don't even realize it. That's the thing. You know, I don't go to church every Sunday. I don't read the Bible all the time. But I do know these things. I am paying attention. I know in the Bible that it says not to be deceived. That these things, that truth, will become deception. And you have to really know what the truth is. And so when it's even touching the Bible, like that to me is, wow. That's pretty wild. And I wonder what other sacred texts, scriptures, things like that they've touched. Because, you know, the Bible is a very important scripture. Knowledge comes from the stories of handed down from, you know, from all the disciples, all of those, the apostles of Jesus, including stories from Jesus himself, and stories of Matthew, David, and, you know, a lot of the gospel also came straight from King David himself as well, you know. And then there's a lot of sacred text that comes from before that, like the Emerald Tablets and the Dead Sea Scrolls, and even Vedic scriptures like the Rig Vedas and the Sri Upanishads and things like that. And I wonder if anything has been changed within those, because I do not know those so well. You know, I don't know the Vedic knowledge, and to be able to be like, oh, this has been changed or that's been changed, you know. And that would be quite interesting to find out from disciplic gurus and those from other sectors of religion and from different sacred knowledge and texts. You know, what's been changed and what's been altered. I find the Mandela Effect fascinating. I have no idea how to explain what's going on. I just know certain events occurred and things possibly happened simultaneously, which allowed certain things to open up and allowed us to be able to see things in a whole different way. I don't know what happened or what occurred. I just know that my memories are completely different from reality on certain things in my life now. But I also accept both. I accept that the Bible now says the wolf and the lamb instead of the lion. I accept it as such because that is the reality of it that everyone else is accepting. Now, I'm not saying that is the truth. I am saying that I am accepting it as that is what we are being presented right now. I am accepting that the Berenstain Bears exist, and it's hard to find anything that says Bernstein with the EIN, but you can find AIN all over the place. I am perfectly fine with accepting both realities of this illusion, because reality is an illusion anyways to begin with, and that's what we always speak about when it comes from Vedic knowledge and Vedic wisdom and Krishna consciousness, is that the Maya, the illusion, is real, and deception is real, and Vedic truth is real as well. And the Mandela Effect is a pretty amazing and real experience that many of us are going through. And what's interesting is some people have never experienced it before, up until today, where I just opened up someone's mind to this wormhole, and now this person's life is completely changed from here on out. This person is going to be looking for this playlist, looking for Shazam with Sinbad on the playlist, because she just watched it 3 days ago. She was able to give me those details, which I was able to share in this video here, so you can rewind it here. I'm going to let you go. We're going to make some pies, so I'm going to go make sure my wife's okay with making pies and things like that. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope it's drama-free as best as possible. I hope you guys have all the pies and cookies and cakes and all the toppings that you want. Make sure you get your red chile if you need your red chile. Get your cranberry sauce. Get your rolls. I got me some of them Hawaiian sweet rolls ready to go. Got me some gravy. I need to get me some stuffing still. We got the turkey all ready to go. Got me a bunch of fresh rosemary. I'm thinking I'm going to just shove right up in the bird and just make it like all infused with rosemary. And a bunch of, I don't know. I got a whole bunch of other spices and things. Instead of butter, we're going to use ghee, so it's going to get fancy. We're going to ghee it up because my wife has got to be dairy-free, and by using ghee, it removes all of the fat, the milk fat, which is interesting. So we're going to be using ghee on this, and it's going to be pretty good, I hope. You guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'll be back soon. I don't know when I'm going to go live again. Like I said, we might be doing some cooking with the Glass Man. But thank you guys all so much for tuning in and watching. Share some of your Mandela effects here, please. I would love to know about them. And any new ones that you might be able to stump me with, like Prince, the 1999. I can't believe that line is. I don't want to repeat it because of the wording, but I'm gonna look into that one now. All right. You guys have a good night. I'm going to let y'all go. Talk to you soon.